Dr. Şərəfkəndi was a beacon of hope and a tireless advocate for Kurdish rights in Iran. Şərəfkəndi's leadership in the KDPI and his commitment to peaceful advocacy made him a target for the Iranian regime. The Kurdish quest for equality and justice in Iran was championed by Şərəfkəndi through non-violent resistance and international advocacy. In Berlin, Şərəfkəndi sought to unite Iranian opposition groups and gain international support for the Kurdish cause. Şərəfkəndi emphasized unity among Iranian opposition groups and sought international backing for Kurdish rights. Despite optimism, a sinister plot by the Iranian regime loomed over Şərəfkəndi's efforts in Berlin. At the Mykonos restaurant, Şərəfkəndi and his companions were ambushed by an Iranian hit squad. The attackers swiftly executed Şərəfkəndi and his companions, leaving a scene of terror and bloodshed. The Mykonos massacre sent shockwaves worldwide, highlighting the Iranian regime's ruthless reach. The immediate aftermath of the Mykonos assassination was met with a chilling silence from Tehran. The Iranian government, known for its swift and often venomous responses to any perceived criticism or attack, remained conspicuously quiet, refusing to acknowledge the incident or offer condolences to the families of the victims. This deafening silence, however, spoke volumes, fueling suspicions that the regime was deeply implicated in the killings. Within the Kurdish community and among Iranian opposition groups, whispers of an Iranian orchestrated plot began to circulate. They pointed to the regime's long history of silencing dissidents and its well-documented use of violence against opponents both within Iran and abroad. The Mykonos assassination, with its chilling precision and cold-blooded efficiency, bore all the hallmarks of a state-sponsored terrorist attack. German authorities, initially cautious in their public statements, launched a full-scale investigation into the killings. The brutality of the attack, the fact that it took place on German soil, and the potential involvement of a foreign government made the Mykonos case a top priority for German law enforcement and intelligence agencies. As the investigation progressed, a clearer picture began to emerge, one that pointed directly to the highest echelons of power in Tehran. Witness testimonies, forensic evidence, and intercepted communications revealed a carefully planned and executed operation, authorized and coordinated by Iranian intelligence agencies. Section 2. Unraveling the plot. The German investigation, led by Judge Fritjof Kupsch, uncovered a web of intrigue from Berlin to the heart of the Iranian regime. Key was Kazem Darabi's testimony, revealing his role in the assassination. Darabi confessed to providing logistical support to the hit squad. He was recruited by Iranian intelligence to gather information on Dr. Şərəfkəndi. Darabi's testimony revealed the reach of Iranian intelligence into Europe. Further evidence implicated high-ranking Iranian officials in the plot. Section 3. A regime exposed. The findings of the German investigation sent shockwaves through the international community. For the first time, a European court had directly implicated the Iranian government in a terrorist attack on its soil. The Mykonos trial, which began in October 1993, became a focal point for international attention, shining a spotlight on the Iranian regime's use of state-sponsored terrorism as a tool to silence its opponents. The trial lasted for over 2 years, with numerous witnesses, including former Iranian intelligence operatives, testifying about the inner workings of the Iranian regime and its involvement in the Mykonos assassination. The evidence presented in court, including intercepted communications, financial records, and eyewitness accounts, painted a damning picture of a government that had authorized and orchestrated a cold-blooded act of terrorism on foreign soil. On April 10, 1997, the German court issued its verdict finding the Iranian government guilty of orchestrating the Mykonos assassinations. The court sentenced 4 men, including Kazem Darabi, to life in prison for their roles in the attack. The court also issued international arrest warrants for 4 Iranian officials, including Intelligence Minister Ali Falahian, for their involvement in the plot. The Mykonos verdict was a landmark event in international law, marking the first time that a sovereign state had been held directly accountable for an act of terrorism committed abroad. The verdict sent a clear message that state-sponsored terrorism would not be tolerated and that those responsible, regardless of their rank or position, would be held accountable for their crimes. Section 1. Justice on Trial. The eyes of the world turned to a nondescript courtroom in Berlin as the Mykonos trial commenced. The trial tested the foundations of international law, challenging state immunity and holding a nation accountable for a terrorist act. The courtroom was a microcosm of the case's complexities. Families of victims sought justice, their faces etched with grief. Defendants, including Iranian operatives, faced charges of murder and conspiracy. Judge Fritjof Kupsch, known for his meticulous attention to detail, presided over the trial. Kupsch approached the proceedings with solemnity, aware of the trial's historical significance. Section 2. Unveiling the truth. The prosecution's case relied on testimony from former Iranian intelligence operatives. They detailed the regime's use of violence to silence opponents. Abolghasem Mesbahi, a former high-ranking official, provided explosive testimony. He alleged the Mykonos assassination was authorized by Ayatollah Khamenei. His testimony sent shockwaves through the courtroom. The defense, led by Otto Schily, sought to discredit the witnesses. They argued the witnesses were unreliable and motivated by personal vendettas. Section 3. A verdict for history. The Mykonos trial dragged on for over 2 years, with each side presenting a complex and often contradictory narrative of events. The courtroom became a battleground of ideas, a stage where the struggle between justice and impunity played out on a global scale. The world watched as the German justice system grappled with the unprecedented challenge of holding a sovereign state accountable for a terrorist act. On April 10, 1997, after months of deliberation, the judges delivered their verdict. The courtroom, packed with journalists, diplomats, and observers from around the world, fell silent as Judge Kupsch began to read the court's findings. The verdict was unequivocal. The Iranian government was guilty of orchestrating the Mykonos assassinations. The court found that the attack had been ordered and approved by a special committee within the Iranian government, which included Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, President Akbar Hashemi Rafsanjani, and Intelligence Minister Ali Falahian. The court sentenced 4 men, including Kazem Darabi, to life in prison for their roles in the assassination. The court also issued international arrest warrants for the 4 Iranian officials implicated in the plot, although they remained safely out of reach within Iran. The Mykonos verdict sent shockwaves through the international community. Section 1. A verdict heard around the world. The Mykonos verdict reverberated across the globe, sending shockwaves through diplomatic circles and igniting a firestorm of controversy. Newspapers around the world splashed the story across their front pages, hailing the verdict as a triumph for international justice and a stark warning to rogue states that terrorism would not be tolerated. The international community, long accustomed to the impunity enjoyed by states that sponsored terrorism, struggled to come to terms with the implications of the verdict. The Mykonos trial had shattered the long-held notion of state immunity, proving that even the highest officials of a sovereign nation could be held accountable for their crimes. Human rights organizations, emboldened by the verdict, stepped up their calls for accountability and justice for victims of state-sponsored terrorism. Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and other groups urged governments to follow Germany's lead and take concrete steps to bring perpetrators of terrorism to justice, regardless of their nationality or official positions. The Mykonos verdict also reignited the debate about the role of the international community in combating terrorism. the trial had exposed the limitations of existing legal frameworks in addressing state-sponsored terrorism, highlighting the need for greater cooperation and coordination among nations to effectively counter this growing threat. The Mykonos verdict sent shockwaves through Europe, prompting a swift and decisive response from the European Union. European leaders, deeply troubled by the implications of the trial, recognized the need to send a clear and unequivocal message to Tehran that state-sponsored terrorism would not be tolerated within or beyond its borders. The European Union recalled its ambassadors from Tehran in a coordinated diplomatic protest, suspending high-level contacts with Iran and imposing limited sanctions on the Islamic Republic. The move, while largely symbolic, represented a significant escalation in Europe's stance against Iran's support for terrorism. Germany, at the forefront of the diplomatic push, demanded that Iran cooperate with the German authorities and hand over the 4 Iranian officials who had been indicted in the Mykonos case. Iran, however, remained defiant, rejecting the German court's verdict as politically motivated and refusing to extradite its citizens. The Mykonos crisis strained relations between Europe and Iran, casting a shadow over their economic and political ties. European businesses, wary of the volatile political climate, scaled back their investments in Iran, further isolating the Islamic Republic from the international community. The Mykonos assassination and the subsequent trial sent a chilling message to Iranian dissidents and opposition figures living abroad. Nowhere was safe from the long arm of the Iranian regime. The trial had exposed the lengths to which Tehran was willing to go to silence its critics, even on foreign soil. The Iranian diaspora, scattered across Europe and North America, felt a renewed sense of vulnerability and fear. Many had fled Iran seeking refuge from persecution, only to find that the threat followed them across borders. The Mykonos trial also raised broader questions about the safety and security of political refugees and asylum seekers in Europe. The case highlighted the challenges faced by European governments in balancing the rights of refugees with the need to protect their citizens from terrorism and foreign interference. The Mykonos assassination served as a stark reminder that the fight against terrorism was not confined to distant battlefields. It was a battle that was increasingly being fought on the streets of European cities, targeting not only governments and institutions but also individuals who dared to speak out against oppression and injustice. The Mykonos assassination stands as a stark reminder of the human cost of state-sponsored terrorism. It was a meticulously planned act of violence that extinguished the lives of 4 individuals dedicated to peace and justice for the Kurdish people. Dr. Sadegh Şərəfkəndi, Fatah Abdoli, Homayun Ardalan and Nuri Dekordi were intellectuals, diplomats and activists. Their deaths sent shockwaves through the Kurdish community and the wider Iranian opposition. Dr. Şərəfkəndi was a unifying figure dedicated to bridging divides. His assassination was a loss for all Iranians yearning for a democratic and inclusive Iran. The Mykonos trial, while a landmark legal victory, could not fully heal the wounds inflicted on that fateful night in Berlin. The legacy of the Mykonos victims lives on in the hearts and minds of those who continue to fight for freedom and justice in Iran. The Mykonos assassination was not an isolated incident. It was a chilling reminder of the ongoing struggle against state-sponsored terrorism. The trial exposed the intricate networks and ruthless tactics employed by the Iranian regime. The international community has yet to find an effective strategy to counter state-sponsored terrorism. The Mykonos trial demonstrated the limitations of existing legal frameworks. The Iranian regime continues to target dissidents both at home and abroad. The struggle for a free and democratic Iran is far from over. The Mykonos assassination highlighted the plight of the Kurdish people. Their struggle for recognition and rights remains largely ignored. The Mykonos assassination continues to cast a long shadow. It is a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and the need for vigilance. The memory of the victims serves as a beacon for a better world.